Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Maritime Accelerator briefing webinar. So the next 45 to 50 minutes is for you to learn about Connected Places Catapult and specifically about our Maritime Accelerator. So before we start the session, just a few housekeeping announcements. So first of all, we are recording this session and we will post this video on the opportunity page on the website. You will also receive these slides as well as the recording after the webinar. And if you have any questions throughout this session, please use the Q&A option, which is at the bottom of your screen. So the agenda for today is very simple. So firstly, we will talk about the Connected Places Catapult and our maritime sector opportunities. We will then move on to the Maritime Accelerator specifically. So we'll cover things like key dates, processes, and what the challenges we are addressing with this accelerator. After that, we'll have some time for Q&A. And then we'll have some closing remarks and finish the session around 3 o'clock. So moving on now to our speakers, I'm the session host for today, and my name is Ivona Wilk, and I'm the program manager for the accelerator. And I'm joined here today by Chris Brook, who's the technical program manager for maritime and logistics, and Georgie Crutenden, who's the systems engineer in our new mobility team. The session today is also supported by other team members, Ivan Spence, who's the scouting manager, and Venetia Holtz, who's the accelerator team lead. So I'm now going to hand over to Chris, who will tell us about the work that we're doing as an organization, and specifically he will talk about the maritime sector that we cover. Chris, over to you. Hello,
Chris, you're on mute.
I am. There's always one person who gets it wrong, and today it's me, so I'll try that again. Good afternoon all. As Ivona said, I'm Chris Brook, and I am the technical program manager here at the Catapult, so I look after our projects and portfolios within the maritime ecosystem. So who are we and what do we do here at the Catapult? Well, we are the UK's innovation accelerator for cities, transport and place leadership, and we are specifically interested in sparking innovative new technologies, connecting the market, whether that be SMEs, investors, or large industry and partnerships, and accelerating our communities across the UK and in its regions. Next slide, please, Emma. We don't operate alone. We're part of a 9 Catapult sort of strong consortium. We have 40 centres across the UK, including Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, but we are one Catapult network. You know, we work together in partnership with our other Catapult brethren to accelerate the UK's economy and to grow our GDP whilst focusing on skills and investment in small, medium organisations across the country. Next slide, please. So why do we do this? Well, firstly, economic growth. You know, the UK's government is here to grow our GDP as well as looking after our citizens. And we're here to grow that, but we're also looking at it at a regional level within the UK. We want to commercialise research. You know, we very much recognise the valley of death is real, and getting out of sort of TRL 4 and 5 and commercialising products is particularly difficult for our industry and some of our SMEs. And we're here to help grow those businesses, provide support, and that is part of this accelerator that you'll hear more about today. That all sits within the context of net zero transition. The government has set multiple targets, both 2030, 2040, and then finally 2050 for our net zero as a country and as a nation. And so we very much believe in those, and we're here to support those. Similarly, cross-sector opportunities, as much as you'll hear a lot about the maritime ecosystem today, we work across a number of ecosystems in transport and cities, and we recognise that a lot of those ecosystems have similar challenges and similar problems, and actually are going to be solved by very similar technologies and solutions. It's just that some may be at different maturity levels, some might have different levels of investment. So how can we leverage the ones that are slightly more mature to help those that aren't catch up. And then it's also around growing supply chain efficiency, resiliency. I think with global with the global state as it is, it's ever more important to make sure we have resiliency within our supply chain and making sure that we can also offer something to the globe as a UK nation. Next slide, please, Yvonne. So what slows us down? What are we here to try and solve? Sometimes it's confidence in new solutions. Some people will probably call us crazy. Some people will be like, well, what is this new thing? Until actually it comes to market and suddenly everyone's like, well, how did we not have this before? There's always risk. We are a ever-growing risky net. Don't want to take risks. We want to have stability, but sometimes we need to take risks and get reward at the end of it. Funding, again, as you'll hear throughout the accelerator, there is opportunity for funding directly through this, but also we're here to bring partnerships between our SMEs, our businesses, and the investment community within the UK and abroad. We like to do this through collaboration. Whether that be large-scale challenges or small, we like to bring multiple different people from different backgrounds, including academia, government, and private business, to provide clarity of future state and route making from now over the next couple of decades. And a lot of it is also around bringing visibility of those challenges to market and making sure that they're in the public eye as well as those that truly understand it, as I'm sure many of us do on the call themselves. Next slide, please. So what are we doing? Well, within the Catapult, we have our sort of dedicated ecosystems, and within the Maritime one, we have what we call our innovation flagship. And this is a core program that we run every year. And this is now the third year that we've been running it. And it's really our opportunity to listen to the market, listen to industry, and create a program of work that delivers to what the industry needs and from what we're hearing from it. So it's about building our commercial confidence in those future technologies, as we've just discussed. Doing that in regions, so bringing the city councils along for the journey, doing the levelling up agenda as stated by the government. Doing that through stimulating live demonstrations and trials, where it's very easy to write a feasibility paper, but actually it's a lot easier to get people hooked and understood on what the solution is by demonstrating it, putting it in the real world. And sometimes we don't truly understand the challenges of the real world until we actually take our technology or our solution and trial it. And that's what we're here to do to help provide those opportunities. And as Ivona will talk about later, it's about how do we use our accelerator programs to grow the SMEs and companies within the sector, and thus leading into private investment into that solution. As much as public funding may kickstart that, to make sure that's sustainable, we need to ensure that there's private investment in these, and that's also where sort of the innovation program for investment sits as well. Next slide, please. Just to give a sort of a flavour of where we work and to show that we are truly national across the UK, and to bring out some of those key pieces of work that we're doing. We've worked very much on shore power. It's a big opportunity, sort of sits alongside the future fuel transition away from oil and gas towards more sustainable fuels such as hydrogen and biomethanol. But shore power and electricity is, assuming it's made from green sources, is a very clean and efficient way of charging up and keeping our vessels alongside whilst not polluting in the middle of our cities. We've also sort of kicked off the Freeport Innovation Network, which I'm sure if you want to hear more about, please do look at our website. So we're working with those on understanding how we can utilise the government's opportunities around tax breaks for freeports and grow those as safe havens for technology. And we've also been working alongside sort of the heavy goods vehicle industry, the rail industry, to understand freight optimization through our ports as well, along with a number of other opportunities across that, which all sort of leads to green coastal shipping corridors, as well as looking at the skills and how do we grow our workforce over the next decade to meet these new challenges. Next slide, please. Again, a little bit sort of more in depth as to some of the technology and the challenges that we face within a port environment. Those that are in green are predominantly looking at the decarbonisation challenge. Those in blue more around the logistics and the data and digital challenges. But as per all of these things, they're not always siloed off into their individual theme, and there are a number that sort of cross over between those two. So, looking at automated vehicles, how do we do that to make ports a safer place whilst also optimizing our efficiency of what we're doing within the port, our processes. Looking at sort of multimodal future fuel supply and distribution. How do ports navigate the next tumultuous decade where we're going to have struggles as to sort of say, well, what is the next fuel of the future? It's probably not going to be one fuel, it's going to be a number of fuels. Do we store it in the port? Do we ship it in? Do we pipe it in? Do we even produce it at the port? These are all challenges and questions that we're looking to understand alongside our partners within this program, and Georgie will touch on some of those specific challenges later on in this webinar. Next slide, please. And just to note that although this is very much focused on the maritime accelerator today, we do have accelerators across our ecosystems, whether that be in aviation, ports, our station innovation zone within the rail and stations ecosystem, diatomic accelerators specifically focusing in the West Midlands within our integrated infrastructure and place leadership, as well as a number within the roads and networks. And I just want to pull out that freight innovation fund there, which is looking at that port optimization problem and freight optimization across multi-modes of transport. Next slide, please. And I think it's time I will hand over to Ivana to talk more about our Maritime Accelerator, but first, please do take a few minutes to watch this video on all things maritime. Thank you.
The maritime sector is an important contributor to the UK economy, with over 200 major ports, dozens of shipyards, and over 110,000 vessels visiting our ports every year.
There's a lot of challenges around decarbonisation and net zero, as well as people and skills, and we work with our members and the wider sector in terms of trying to find innovative solutions and opportunities, funding, in order to be able to support that growth that is needed.
Navigating this complex ecosystem is challenging, and that's why the Connected Places Catapult is ideally placed to bring together those different groups. Our accelerator is a major part of our milestone programme and is designed to help entrepreneurs and innovators bring new ideas into the market, addressing challenges set by our ports and our service providers. In the first year of the accelerator, we saw 10 SMEs coming through, bringing forward their ideas and their innovations to our challenge holders.
To be picked up by the accelerator and introduced to some of the most engaged people in the industry, and to get a pilot project within a few months is just phenomenal for a company like ours.
In this, the second year, we've seen a further 6 join that cohort, with 2 progressing on to full-scale trials. We've seen Unmanned Life trialling their drone technology up at the Port of Tyne, and Geospatial Insights looking at their satellite technology, monitoring emissions for Serco.
So Unmanned Life has built a software platform to deploy, control and orchestrate drones and robots to work as autonomous teams. We've developed a product called U-Security, which is the ability for enterprises like ports to launch autonomous drones to do security, surveillance and inspection work.
Geospatial Insight are specialists in the provision of geospatial technology, Earth observation, drone data, and the analysis of all those layers for quite a wide range of markets. The accelerator itself delivered insight into the market. It also provided support on things like looking for future funding and future investment, as well as perhaps most importantly, direct engagement with potential clients.
Working with Connected Places Catapult has really helped us overcome some of those challenges. They've got a fantastic network of SMEs and industry experts that we can call upon, and they can help us network with other businesses looking to do the same thing. So we're building out an innovation ecosystem with Connected Places in the centre of that.
Connected Places Catapult are a brilliant organisation full of really experienced individuals across multiple areas of the business. It's really helped in terms of what we do within the Liverpool City region, as well as nationally from a maritime perspective, and the importance of growing a whole city region and all of the elements that that involves.
Okay, thank you, Chris, for the introduction to what we do in the maritime space and also as Catapult. So let's now move on to the specifics of the program. So the Maritime Accelerator is a rolling program of innovation support, which really focuses on accelerating the adoption of new technologies in the maritime sector, but also on solving its most pressing challenges. So the accelerator will be selecting from 6 to 8 SMEs at TRL 5 to 8 to join us on a 5-month program. And we have brought into the program a number of ecosystem partners who represent the industry, government offices, as well as academia. And all of them bring into this program various opportunities. So, for example, opportunity to trial your technologies, industry knowledge, and also access to their own ecosystem of partners. And at the bottom of this slide, you see who the partners are, and most of them have been with us since the beginning of this program. We are now entering year 3, so all of these partners are really kind of familiar with what we're trying to achieve here and have been very supportive to our SMEs throughout. So to date, we have supported 16 SMEs over the last 2 years of the program. And again, like I said, this year we're looking for another 6 to 8 SMEs to join the program. So just to give you an example of some of the outcomes of the support, several of our SMEs secured projects with our program partners, either during or after the program. So for example, Ant Machines secured a project with Port of Tyne, the same as Unmanned Live in year 2, and Geospatial delivered a trial with Serco in year 2. For some of our SMEs, the program was sort of an entry point into the sector. So, for example, Chrome Angel Solutions previously operated mainly in the rail sector, and through the program entered the maritime. And many of our SMEs have also been very successful with raising private investment or employing more staff since the program. So examples could be Ceto AI, Spotship, Jet Engineering, or Mission Zero Technologies. So I mentioned before that our program is aimed at addressing challenges of the sector and of our partners by enabling technology trials for our SMEs. So my colleague Georgie will now take us through what the challenge scoping process was and the details of each of the challenges that we have identified with our partners. So over to you, Georgie.
Thank you. Yes, so my name's Georgie Crunden. I'm one of the systems design engineers within the maritime sector at CPC. Essentially, I've had the benefit of being able to come in and really evaluate the previous challenges that have happened within the Maritime Accelerator and kind of try and form it into something evolved from the previous versions. So you'll see on the left, we have the sort of 5 key themes that are identified from previous years. That was building on previous challenge statements from autonomy, decarbonisation, and future skills. We felt that that could potentially have been tweaked a little bit and had a bit more of a technology focus. So that's what we've tried to do this year. We did this through evaluating previous applicants, so understanding the technologies, areas that they've come from, and really trying to encapsulate the challenges of ports and other service operators. So this process was done through one-to-one interviews with our partners. We really wanted to sit down and hold informal discussions around what they wanted from these challenges to really sort of maximize the buy-in from their side. Ultimately, what we wanted from them is to understand where this program fits in with their strategy, potentially their decarbonisation strategies, and potentially if they had any other innovative programs that they were running. We also wanted to make sure we understood their capacity. So whether that's physical space on site or people, staff members who are available to really support these trials. So essentially from these interviews, we had sort of key messages that came out. We sort of reshuffled them and decided upon our challenge statements. We then got them to check these as well, just to check that they were representative of the challenges that they had. So yeah, could I have the next slide, please? Essentially, from those 5 key themes, you'll see that power and propulsion and vessel operations got condensed. We felt that the challenges that came out and some of the statements that were made were sort of similar, and it also helps to kind of separate vessel operations from port operations. So in this discussion, I'm going to take you through some of the challenges that we came up with, and hopefully give some insight into what the partners were saying. So could I have the next slide, please? Brilliant. So this first one, the first one's power, propulsion, and vessel operations. Here we're really looking at sort of the energy demand. So decarbonisation is a massive problem. It's got lots of different legs to it. There are lots of different areas. And so what we've tried to do is really break that down into chunks. So firstly, looking at storage, generation and distribution systems. Ports are widely accepting of the fact that there is a multi-fuel future coming through. And so making sure ports are best placed to really exploit those technologies that are coming through and be able to offer that to their customers. That chicken and egg situation is also something that's widely known. And so being able to provide ports an opportunity to offer this to their customers potentially has some benefits through the market. So we can also extend this challenge to propulsion systems. So potentially not looking at cargo ships and their propulsion systems. Potentially that's a bit too wide scale, but coming down into smaller vessels, potentially there's going to be some innovative ideas around those. Equally, there's the point around the actual shipbuilding and design. So one of our partners in particular have ammonia vessels coming in. They've ordered these sort of as a new design, and they're keen to understand from that building process if there is anything that can be learned. And so that retrofitting of other existing vessels is something that they're really keen on. So understanding the knowledge processes, how that kind of can feed through and really benefit the operations as a whole. Brilliant. Can I have the next slide, please? So the second challenge we have is around shoreside technology and infrastructure. This is really where we're getting into day-to-day operations. Usually the interviews we were having were with operational staff, so they were quite well equipped in terms of speaking on their experience. One of the biggest topics that came up sort of across a few of the interviews were the gating and pre-gating issues. So where you're getting truck drivers and onwards freight coming into the port, making sure that that process is as streamlined as possible. There's no sort of waiting around with idled engines. There's no sort of wasting of time, making sure people are in the right places at the right times. Some ports did have some systems that were able to do this to a particular degree. But I think, well, from the challenges descriptions, we're really looking for other ideas that can come in and potentially either support or reform this situation. Equally, another example that we had from one of our partners was around an existing older dock that they had. So I believe it was a Victorian dock, and they were unsure on the suitability of that dock for use. Obviously, being a business, they want to make sure that they're utilising all of their assets. So making sure that they can inspect that and understand the capability of the mooring points to make sure that that berth can be operational. So understanding the infrastructure, sort of physical infrastructure as part of those docks is a really interesting point here. But yeah, could I have the next slide, please? So the third challenge was around safety and security. A huge topic for the ports, something that they're all thinking about. Is very much at the front of their minds. Ports as a general working environment are very dangerous. They're quite big sites. There's lots of heavy machinery and plant that are moving around the site constantly. So making sure that there is an understanding of who can be using particular bits of equipment based on their safety training, and kind of how that interaction can take place. There's discussions of proximity monitors, potentially some sort of tracking devices that were able to detect if you're within sort of the danger zone of a piece of machinery. So that was kind of interest for sure. And then sort of the AR, VR trainings, the actual training itself, obviously very site specific. So depending on the port that you're at, depending on the site that you're at, really understanding what those unique challenges are and being able to relay that in an engaging way. Some of the ports were saying about how they want it to be almost gamified to make sure that people are really engaged with that training and really able to grasp it. So yeah, that's just an interesting thought, I think, that came out of that one. Another one is the understanding of safety metrics and trends and the incident detection and risk assessments. So some of the ports were saying about how they had camera feeds that would then get processed in post for their safety assessments, so sort of detecting risks and accidents. They mentioned that this often wasn't live and it was something that would happen in post. And so there was a desire to kind of move to more of a preventative idea as opposed to reactive, which makes total sense. Kind of making sure that capacity is there, what that looks like from an operational standpoint as well. So how people interact with the system, and kind of being mindful of staff privacy as well is something that came up. But yeah, could I have the next slide, please? Brilliant. So this challenge, the fourth challenge, is around resource management. So this is kind of more directly related to the business operations and where the port can see profit and in hours lost. So one of the biggest things that came out of our discussions was about the optimization of labor. So making sure people are in the right place at the right times. There are often last minute schedule changes that can happen to ships coming into the port. Potentially they don't have the right cargo, things like that. And where people are positioned ready to receive that cargo, potentially they might not be needed in that moment because of a late delivery. So that kind of lost hour, the lost hours of the people that should be able to service that vessel, then not being able to, was something that can be looked at. Sort of, can they be redeployed elsewhere? You know, how long is that delay? How much is it going to impact the general schedule of the port? So an interesting theme there, not only from the actual people and the staff themselves, but from the equipment point of view. So the at port container handling equipment, forklifts, cranes, etc., making sure that those pieces of equipment are available and ready to use. Equally, the point about asset health management. So understanding the sensors that are coming through, what they're saying, and how that can be managed. So one example was the refrigerated containers and the refrigerated cargo that would come into the port. Often that would go offline, so that would stop being a cooled environment, but the port wouldn't actually know about it until it was effectively too late. So oftentimes losing important cargo. They used medical equipment, medicines is the best example of, if they don't have access to that and visibility, especially at scale, where does that kind of business operation step in? So yeah, that was an interesting one. Equally, optimization of energy use. So not only how much fuel is a particular piece of equipment using, but how effectively is it using that equipment, fuel, apologies. So just an interesting sort of insight into what's actually going on in the day-to-day. Equally, another one of our partners was talking about their warehouse management. So really understanding the stock. Often there's a list of approved materials that can be used on a vessel, on a piece of equipment, and that process of going through the supply chain. There's a specific example of that being a manual process where they're having to write things down, transfer that onto an online sheet. So any sort of holistic ideas about how these management processes can be optimized, I think is going to be really interesting to ports. And we really hope that solutions that come to the port are going to be able to really fit in with their current operations. So yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting set of challenges, and I hope that it resonates with people. Thank you, Owen.
Thank you very much, Georgie. Well, and like Georgie said, I really hope that everyone now has a good idea of where and how their kind of solutions fit into our challenge areas. So now I'm going to go through the details of our program structure and the application process. So essentially our program is divided into 4 distinct phases, which you can see on the screen now. So we are now in stage 1, which is really focused on scouting and recruitment. Obviously, we opened application a while ago on the 13th of May. We now have this briefing webinar, and also we will host 2 drop-in sessions, Q&A drop-in sessions tomorrow and on Monday next week. So if you have any questions that don't get answered today or anything comes up, please join one of these sessions. You can register for them on the opportunity page, which is also the application page on our website. So the next stage will be the assessment and selection stage. So our deadline for applications is midday on the 20th of June. We will then take all the applications and shortlist them. So we will obviously read through them in an anonymous way. And we will invite about 15 SMEs to interviews, which will be on the 10th, 15th, and 16th of July. There will be 45-minute interviews, and I would encourage everyone to actually put those or lock those dates in your calendars now in case you do get invited to interviews. Both successful and unsuccessful applicants will be obviously notified after the shortlisting stage. And then we aim to select a cohort on the 19th of July and again notify both successful and unsuccessful applicants of the result. So once we select the cohort, August will be kind of the month when we will focus on onboarding our SMEs onto the program. But also during this time, we will carry out SME needs assessment. There will be about 40 minutes calls. Really to understand, what your needs are as a business, and we'll try to kind of create or suggest your bespoke support plan for you. We will also during this time start setting up calls with our partners just to start kind of scoping potential trials with them. Our welcome day is scheduled for the 17th of September. So this will be our kind of time, about half a day event at our offices in London, when yourselves, our partners, and our coaches will all come together to get to know each other and obviously kind of start all those conversations. September and January is the main periods when we deliver bespoke business supports to our SMEs and we further define and prepare trials. And January and February is the trial delivery period. Just maybe one thing to point out here, trials are, there's no obligation for you to deliver a trial or want to deliver a trial. Just mark it in your application if you're not interested in doing it, just to kind of let us know. However, we would obviously encourage everyone to kind of think about it. And finally, for those who will be doing trials, we will expect the final trial report on the 11th of May. You will also be invited to our CPC Summit, where maritime will be one of the focus sectors like it was this year. Agenda and format are still being finalized, but obviously we'll be keeping you posted on that. So I mentioned before that our program will include sort of 2 streams. So the first one is that commercial one where we work with you on a sort of one-to-one basis to really understand your needs and to kind of tailor the support to you. The support covers areas like investment readiness, marketing and communication, also understanding of your market, target market. Where possible, we also make introductions to potential customers and partners. The second side is the technical side. So this is where you get an opportunity to work directly with us and with our program partners, both to scope and to run a trial. And you can apply for trial funding of between £10,000 to £20,000. So in terms of the eligibility criteria and requirements, there's 6 of them. So firstly, you must be a UK registered SME, which means a micro, small, medium-sized company. Your solution should be at TRL 5 to 8. So that means TRL technology readiness level. You must be able to address at least one of the challenge statements with your solution. So this is about kind of that relevance to the program. You must have innovative idea that you are willing to develop or test in real world environment, and you must attend key events in person. So kind of commitment to really make the most of the program is something that we do require. Most of the program will be delivered online. It's mainly kind of the welcome day, the CPC summit, and if during the program, you know, we suggest that maybe what, you know, in person is better, or you request that, then we can obviously arrange that. But most of it is going to be online. And another kind of requirement, or maybe really it's to kind of make you aware of that, is that we do not require you to currently operate in the maritime sector. So if your solution is currently in a different sector, but you think it's applicable to the maritime sector, do apply. Okay, so in terms of the selection process, so that consists of 4 stages. So in the first one, we score all applications that we received, and like I mentioned before, in an anonymized process. So we exclude any identifying information from the application to make sure that it's unbiased, who we invite to interviews. Like I said before, we shortlist about 15 applications for the next stage, which is the interviews, and both successful and unsuccessful applicants will be notified. Then the interviews with the shortlisted applicants will be done together with our partners who participated in the challenge scoping process. Those will be 45-minute interviews covering both technical and commercial assessment. You will get some information before you come to the interview, what to prepare for it. And shortly after, there will be a deliberation between us and our partners, and we will select 6 to 8 SMEs for the cohort. So this is what we look at really in that shortlisting stage. So the kind of things that we look at is your trial proposal, if you decide to put one forward, how you fit to the program, what your solution is, what's the kind of unique element of it, what's the business model, what's your understanding of your addressable market, who do you understand your competitors are, your team. Again, I would please do not include any names in it, although in your application, although we do say that throughout the application, but do describe, you know, what skills and experience your team brings, traction. So what is kind of what do you estimate your financial risks are? What's your product market fit? Okay, so I hope we've kind of answered all of your questions now, and I hope that you are ready to submit your application. Like I mentioned before, the deadline is 12, so midday on the 20th of June. Either follow the link on the screen, or you can scan the QR code to access the application page. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me or my colleague Ivan, who's our scouting and ecosystem manager. Some of you might have already been in touch with him. We are now going to open the Q&A. So if there are any questions now, if you haven't submitted them and they haven't been answered, this is the time to ask them now. But please do put your questions in the Q&A box. And Georgie, Chris, if you'd like to Put your cameras on. Okay, let's see if we have any questions. Venetia, were there any questions previously that might have been already answered, and we could just share the response with everyone? Sorry, you're on mute.
Yes, of course. So I think one of the questions was around where this recording will be held. So I think we'll just say a few times it will be up on the opportunity page for the Maritime Accelerator on the Connected Places Catapult website. We got asked about the TRL level. So we're looking for solutions which are 5 to 8 on the TRL scale. So that you'll see on the accelerator page, there's some eligibility criteria which you do need to make sure that you're eligible before you apply. We don't want people having to waste their time. So please do look at that, the eligibility criteria. And if you are at too early stage, I wouldn't worry. There are lots of other opportunities at Connected Places Catapult. You can sign up to the SME newsletter. I put a link to that in my response. And there are lots of opportunities through the Transport Research and Innovation grants, the TRIG program that we run twice a year. So if you are too early stage, it doesn't mean that there's not other opportunities. It just might not be a good fit for this program. So yeah, thank you for those questions.
Right. Let me just see. I think we have a new one. Can proposals be made in support of more regional shipping in and around UK ports, but not leaving the UK? Okay. Right. Sorry, I'm not sure I understand this question. Chris?
Yeah, I think this one reflects on the partners that we've currently got for this for this round. I think yes, the partners do seem to be large shipping companies, etc. However, they do have dealings with smaller ports throughout the UK. Smaller workboats, not large shipping. Yeah, absolutely. So I think if it solves the challenges that we've set, then absolutely, please do send your proposals in. We do have some good contacts, not particularly within this program, but as Catapult as a whole, with Workboat Association and some of the other smaller ports in the UK. So please do send those in as well. Thank you.
Right, thanks, Chris. Then we have a question about, is it possible to apply where a company is supplied by many different SMEs? Can these SMEs all attend and be involved in all of the program of workshops, client pitching, and other sessions of the program? It's not something we have come across before. Normally we would expect, or normally we would have one company applying. So is this company based in the UK? It has to be a UK registered business. So that's one of the requirements. So I guess if that is met, then I would say, yes, put your application forward. But I think you would have to tell us a little bit more about your specific circumstances. Perhaps you could send us an email. Okay, do we have any other questions?
There's just one there on the definition of TRL, which is technology readiness level, which please do Google it, but generally sort of 1 to 2 is feasibility study, 2 to 3 going into laboratory type conditions, 4 and 5 is then getting that solution shown in a starting to get into the real world or trial solution. 6 is then representative. 7, 8, 9 is then getting into commercial, with 9 being sort of commercial off the shelf technology.
Thank you. And Chris, also one of the questions, sorry, not you, Chris, there was a Chris in the Q&A, I think is asking for email address. So we will share these slides with you and other attendees after this session, and email addresses will be on the deck, so you can use those to get in touch with us. Do we have any other questions? Let's give it a minute or two more.
The only thing I was going to add was that if anybody does have any questions that they can't think of right now, they can always submit them later. And I think there'll be a chance for a drop-in as well.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, if any questions come up after this session, like I said, we have a drop-in tomorrow morning and one on Monday afternoon. You can register on the opportunity page for those, and you will be sent a link to dial into this once you've registered. Okay.
I think there's a question here, one in the chat around what data is available and can be shared. So that's a really important, that's obviously a really important topic. And if you were selected onto the programme, that's something that you would work on with the partners if you were going to explore a trial of what you could get access to. So it's not something we can hypothetically answer right now. It'd be depending on what you want to test and what you want to get access to and what the partners can make available as well.
Thanks, Misha. Okay, I think we have another question in the chat now. Yes, so the question is about really funding for trials that may be more expensive to conduct than the 10 to 20,000 that we are able to support with. Well, we probably won't be able to support very expensive trials. I think that 10 to 20 is maximum we will be able to give you. So I think it will be a kind of conversation also, you know, with partners and potentially trying to find other sources of funding for the trial during the program to help fund it. I'm not entirely sure here how expensive we're talking. But yes, if you're planning to apply, there is a bit where we ask about kind of your estimation of the trial funding that you might require. So would be great if you could include that on the application.
I think Ivona's already touched on the fact that not all of the SMEs on the previous cohorts have trialed, so it might be that you still feel there's enough value that you can come from speaking to the partners, having the one-to-one business coaching from our teams and our external coaches. So not all of our SMEs have come onto trial, but obviously we would love to facilitate it if it's possible.
Okay. Do we have any other questions from anyone? Okay, well, I think we can probably wrap up now. If there are any questions, do join the drop-in or
there might be one more around any more detailed description on the challenges. So I don't know, that's really one for Georgie, if there is any more behind the scenes research that we could make available.
Yeah, I think we definitely have the overall challenge descriptions available, and they'll be on the deck as well. So definitely refer back to that. And then if there are any more specific questions around any of those, please do get in touch.
Yes, they are. So what you saw today, Nick, on the slides that Georgie presented is on the opportunity page. So maybe you just weren't in the right place. But if you go to the opportunity page, the challenges are descriptions with all bullet points are there. But if anything is not clear, yes, let us know, and we can sort of go through the details with you. Okay, I think. All right. So will the sites be available? Yes, they will be. They will be sent to you after the webinar. And then we have a question from Dave. Can you clarify if vessels and ports in challenge 1 means both or could be either?
Yeah, we're looking for solutions that would definitely go across both the actual vessel construction itself and the operation of those vessels, and then any port infrastructure as well. I think the general message we were getting through from the participants was that they're very open to any solutions that they think or that people think might be effective in some way. So they're definitely not really looking for a particular challenge or a particular idea to be solved. It's more about what can be brought to the stage, and we're really trying to offer a platform and an opportunity through each of these partners. So yeah, the challenge statements are there, but ultimately they are quite vague, and they can be interpreted in different ways.
Yeah, I think it's also important to point out that our partners, there's a really big interest from their side to support you in your development. So, you know, the idea that you come up with might not necessarily be solving their specific challenge, but they can help you, you know, test that solution and then, you know, help you take it then to the market after the program. Okay, do we have any other questions? Okay, I think we're probably going to wrap up here. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. I hope it was informative. I hope you have the answers to your questions. If not, join us for the Q&A. Thank you so much, Chris, Georgie, Venetia, for helping today as well and for sharing all the information. Have a lovely afternoon. And I hope to see many applications very soon. Thank you so much, everyone.